and suddenly everything gets an awful lot more responsive. So I give it some throttle now, it's properly off. And you can't accelerate for very long in this car because you hit the speed limit extremely quickly. So I bought a Mercedes SL, didn't actually mean to, but nonetheless, here it is, which of course begs the obvious question, why an SL, and then why this SL? Well, I had an SLK, as you may have seen if you've been watching my channel before, which I loved very much. It was a fantastic car and I had it for about 8 years, and eventually it got to the point where I needed to replace it, and the obvious choice was an SLC, which is the new version of the SLK. In fact, I went and looked at an AMG SLC, which is a very nice piece of kit indeed, very fast and very comfortable. But whilst I was there, I looked at an SL. Now this is the bigger version. This is the well, it's the ultimate two-seater roadster really, and yeah, once you've seen and driven one of these, it's very hard to go back to an SLC. It is a, I think, particularly beautiful car, and it's just an SLC wound up to 11 really, just everything just that little bit better. So having looked at one and had a little drive, I then went and hit the internet, did some research and discovered exactly what I wanted from an SL, which was, it needed to be a 2016 on model because they did a facelift, which has a whole new front on it, looks a lot nicer, but a few other very neat improvements as well, and a more powerful engine, and something called Dynamic Select, which we will come to. And then I looked at specification. Now these are a very well specified car, but there were certain things I really wanted, and those were Harman Kardon Hi-Fi, and there's an electric wind deflector, which I'll show you when we take the roof down, which is in the back. That's a very useful thing. Ambient lighting was another, and the final thing is quite a rare thing, and that is, you can see it most clearly, see these little fellows either side of the mirror here? Those are actually cameras. This car has level 2 autonomous driving, and that's quite a rare feature on these, so it became quite hard to find one with that. What I did discover was that there's a version called a 400 edition, and the edition is a very high spec, and that had the autonomous driving. So if I could find one of those with the Harman Kardon Hi-Fi and in the colour I wanted, that was it, and this is the one. Now the interesting thing about this particular car is the guy who originally bought this one didn't stop there. This has got a lot more. This is about the highest spec SL I've ever seen. Starts right here. This I love. It's completely pointless but brilliant. Auto closing doors. I just need to touch that and let go, and it closes for you. But that is just the beginning. Go and take a look in here. So these seats, they're heated of course, and they have air scarf. That's these little fellas here that waft warm air around you. The air scarf is an option, and of course they're all power adjusted, but you'll notice they've got all these little perforations in them. That's because these seats are actually air conditioned as well, so on a hot day you can waft cool air through them. As I mentioned, it's got ambient lighting, that's down underneath here and inside sections of the doors, so that all lights up at night. You can choose different colours. This is the Harman Kardon speaker system. I think there's 11 speakers on this one if I remember rightly. But what else did the guy add to this one? Well, it has keyless go, so there's no key to start the car. You just get in and touch that. As long as the key is in your pocket, it'll start. And in fact, if I turn the ignition on, I can show you a couple of other things on here. Another extra that this one has is dynamic seating. So if we look here, this little button, if I push that, you'll see it on display. Here we go. Now with this, you can adjust the backrest sides. You can see them illuminated here, so you can have those wider or narrower to suit yourself. Lumbar support. Now this is adjustable up and down and in and out. It's got a massage function. If you're on a long journey, you can actually set it to give you a gentle massage, just to sort of stop you getting stiffened up. And dynamic seat, this is particularly interesting. It's one of those things you think, well, what's the point of that, until you've had it, and then you find it's quite useful. These side bolsters, as you go around the corner, if you're cornering that way, then the left hand bolster will bolster up and just hold you a bit more in position, which is very nice actually. Seat heating balance as well, so you can adjust when you've got these heated seats on, how much comes from the base, how much comes from the backrest, and that kind of thing. So that's the dynamic seats, but there's a load of other stuff in here, as you can imagine. This is all the different choices of navigation, the radio, media systems, telephone of course, vehicle. A couple of interesting things in vehicle actually. If we go to that one, you can move across dynamic select. We'll come back to that in a bit, but a couple of things it has underneath here is vehicle data, where you can actually go into that, and it gives you things like the steering angle, please switch on the ignition. Okay, let's do that. There we go. Now you've got steering angle on here, the rate of acceleration and deceleration, that kind of thing. But also then you can go to engine data, and that gives you a bit of a head-up display of your power, your torque, temperatures, and that kind of stuff. Is quite interesting. A little bit pointless, but quite interesting. But if we come back to the basics of this car, the thing that I find over the SLK is just how much more space there is in it. The seats are much bigger, it's wider, it's much more comfortable, and also it's a very expensive car. I mean, I bought it second-hand at just over 3 years old, and 35,000 miles. This car new would have been close to £90,000, and so you got things like all this, which is normally plastic, is proper aluminium, and the same with the shifters on here, and it's incredibly quiet and incredibly comfortable. Things like this I like as well, the way they finish this across here, that's very, very nice. Flat bottom steering wheel's a nice touch. What else? Let me show you around the back of the car as well. So if we come out of here, the boot on this one is completely self-powered, so I'll just close that door with the old soft touch. There we go. And in fact you can open it by giving it a little kick, so if your hands are full you just put your foot underneath it and it does that, which is rather neat. Now this is a cover that comes over your luggage to allow the roof to fold, and normally what you tend to do is you drive along and think it's a lovely day, I'll stop and put the roof down, you hit the button, you find the cover is not in place, so you can't put the roof down, you have to get out, open the boot, put the cover down, close the boot, get back in, and it rather takes the joy out of a power roof. With this one, on the facelift model, this is powered, and what that means is that when you're inside the car and you hit the roof control, if that's not in place, it puts it in place for you, and then it operates the roof, so that's quite a nice thing. That was on the facelift onwards, so that's another thing that I wanted. Let's put that away, and then you close the boot with that one there. Now while we're on the outside of the car, I should just show you the engine bay as well, I suppose. Let's do it properly. So there's a little catch underneath here. And here we will find that is a 3-litre twin turbo engine. It's actually the smallest engine they put in this car. They also do, I think it's a 4.4 litre V8, and then they do the AMG versions, which are absolutely bonkers. I think one's a 5.5 V8 and the other one's something like a 6.5 litre V12. So smallest engine, but actually 362 horsepower. That's with the facelift version. The older version was a little bit less powerful, and that's giving it 0 to 60 in 4.9 seconds, which frankly is plenty. It's a properly quick car. It's limited to 155 miles an hour anyway, not that you can get to anything like that sort of speed where I drive, but what it has, because it's a twin turbo, is a lot of mid-range torque, so it feels a very powerful car to drive. Anyway, talking of which, let's go and do exactly that, and I'll show you what it's like on the road. Pretty car though, isn't it? Very nice. Actually, what I think I will do before we hit the road is show you this roof in operation, because that's pretty impressive. And basically all I need to do is turn the ignition on, and then there's a flap underneath here, and that is the one that operates the roof. So if I pull that one up, the boot is opening backwards and it folds. It's actually a lot faster than the one on the SLK as well. Now, I mentioned the electric wind deflector. On a convertible, it's really good to have a sort of barrier here, and it stops the wind from vortexing over and getting you in the back of the neck. So a wind deflector here is a really good thing, but you tend to find, of course, that once you fitted it, it's there forever. On this one, it's an optional extra. This car's got it. It's an electric one, so you can push a button there, and that just drops into place like that. Another thing you can do with this as well, there's a button that operates all the windows. That means you can bring the back windows up to join the front ones like so, or you can use that to drop all the windows together. It's quite a nice convenient feature. So if you want fully open, you can do that, touch that one there, send that away, and then you're fully open. That is a nice feature. But I think what we're going to do, let's just put that back up again, is we'll start with the roof up. So I'll bring it all up, and what you'll notice is that wind deflector folds away automatically. That's why I brought it back up. So you'll see the back come up and the deflector go away, Here we go. And then here comes the roof. And there goes the boot. And then all the windows come up. Cool, huh? And in fact, you can do that up to about 25 miles an hour, which is a nice feature, because if you ever dropped a roof at some traffic lights and then had them go green halfway through, you can imagine the embarrassment. So it is nice for this to just drive away whilst it's still folding. Now, in terms of the extras, I have had a look through and I think there is only 2 extras that this car hasn't got. There is a feature called a magic sky roof. You can push a button and this tints down. This car doesn't have that. And the other thing is illuminated kick plates. So you see it says Mercedes Benz along here. You can have those so they light up when the doors open, which is quite a nice touch. Doesn't have that. Other than that, I don't think there's anything that this car doesn't have. I think it's got something like, I did add it up, 12,000, £13,000 worth of extras. Quite remarkable. Anyway, let's go for a drive, shall we? You very quickly get used to that. Now I'm going to start off with the roof up because I want to give you a sense of just how incredibly quiet this car is, because I think that is the real major plus point of this. You can have a convertible, but you want to have something that's quiet and comfortable. This I think is about as good as it gets. Now pretty much everything on here is automatic. I don't need to do anything with the handbrake. I'll just put it into reverse. And as soon as I touch the throttle, the handbrake will come off. There it goes. And we're off. And it's drive. There's a reversing camera on here as well. Yet another extra. Even that clock up there is an extra. There is pretty much nothing this doesn't have. Anyway, let's go and take it out and we'll find some nice roads. This incidentally is Coombe Cellars, which is a really lovely pub on the banks of the River Tean. I don't know whether you can see it there. But anyway, recommended. Very nice indeed. So I mentioned earlier the dynamic select. Now the dynamic select allows you to choose how you want the car to feel and behave, and it affects the engine response, the gearbox response, so holding the revs longer in sportier settings. It even changes the noise of the car, so it makes it slightly sportier. Breathe in when you've got it in the sport settings. But another extra this car has got, which was a very expensive extra, I think it was over £3,000, is something called ABC, it's Active Body Control, and that is a very sophisticated suspension system. So the minute we're in comfort, everything's nice and quiet, the steering is light, that's another thing that changes, and it's holding the revs down so it's all nice and smooth, but the suspension is very, very soft and comfortable. And that's where this car really wins. It's its ability to adapt completely to what you want it to be. If you can only have one car, and I can only have one car, I've only got the space and indeed the money for it, this offers the widest breadth possible if you want a convertible. It's a coupe, it's comfortable, it's refined, but then you've got the sport settings and you've got the ability to drop the roof, and I think that is the real benefit of this car. But we'll head on out of here, find a bit faster roads, and I can show you in a bit more detail exactly what this car does and what those different dynamic settings do. I have to say though, even in the comfort setting, it does make a fantastic noise. It's not brutish, it's not loud, it's very refined, but it's just that perfect degree of menace to it. Not to mention a lot of power. One thing that's quite clever on here is because it has that electronic handbrake, you can run some traffic lights like this on the hill. You can just stop, give the brake pedal an extra push and it'll hold now, touch the accelerator, and we're off again. And I can do the same here, coming behind these cars. Stop, give the brake pedal an extra push, it lights up hold in here, and that'll just sit there until I'm ready to move again basically. Okay, here we go, lights are changing. Touch the accelerator pedal and it just pulls smoothly away. Okay, I'm going to take her onto the dual carriageway and I can show you a couple of other features. favourite features, I mentioned that autonomous driving. I can set the cruise control now, and I can wind the cruise control up to 70 miles an hour, which we're not doing, behind that car in front, and now it is measuring the speed of that car in front, and basically whatever speed that car does, it will do up until 70 miles an hour. It'll just, so as the traffic speeds up and slows down, it'll just adjust itself, just makes it really dead easy. And in fact, it's also autonomous driving. If I take my hand off the wheel now, it's actually self-steering. Hopefully it's pretty straight, it's in when I see it working, but you can see that just doing a little tweak just to hold it on the line. Now you can't keep your hands off the wheel, it will bleep if you keep your hands off for more than a few seconds, but I'll show you this speed control again. So what we're going to do now, we're doing 55 miles an hour because that's the speed that car is going. There's a car coming past on the outside, we're waiting for him to go clear. And now we'll pull out and overtake. So I'm not touching the throttle at all. Just recognising we're changing lanes, it's picking the speed up. Now doing 60. And now it's matching the speed of that car. So again, I don't have to do anything except steer. And in fact, once it picks up on the pilot control, it'll steer as well. So I'll take my hands off. You can see now probably it's just holding it on line. Now you shouldn't drive with your hands off, you should keep your hands on the wheel, but it just takes that extra bit of pressure off. But the thing I really like about this car, say we're doing 70 now, which is what the cruise control is set at, so he's moved out of the way with our speed up to 70. Isn't that quiet? Isn't that incredibly quiet? That is what I love about this car. That's the big difference between this and the SLK or the SLC as it is now. Apart from a lot more space and a lot more features, it's an astonishingly refined car. And what I like about it is you can do really big long journeys in it very easily and very comfortably. Let's just show you that autopilot again. So hands off. Look at that. It's actually steering the car. It's not how you're supposed to use it. I'll keep my hands very close to it for obvious reasons, but I'm not actually steering. It is. As I say, it will bleep at you if you take your hands off. It even manage gentle curves, but it's really for motorways. It won't manage country roads or that kind of thing. Here we go. This kind of curve, it's fine. You can see it there now, just gently taking that corner for me. It's as close as you can currently get to a self-driving car. It won't do decisions for you, but it will certainly manage a lot of the driving. Okay, so we're going to come off and now find some twistier roads, and I'll give you a quick demo of that dynamic select, because that is quite impressive. So I'm going to take this one here. Currently it's in comfort mode. That means that the suspension is soft, the steering is light, the engine is holding the revs down, the gearbox is changing up early. Everything is nice and refined and comfortable. But we can scroll through now. Let's go to Sport, and that is now making the engine a bit more responsive. It's holding the gears a lot longer, keeping the revs up. The suspension is stiffened up, the steering is a little heavier, and the exhaust is a little bit noisier. But there's another setting as well, and just to give you the full impact of this, I'm going to go to Sport Plus. If you listen now, so now it's changed down again, and everything's got that little bit edgier. It's rolled its sleeves up and said, okay, come on then, let's go for it. And this is quite remarkable. So now you can hear it's blipping the downshifts. So as you brake, it's actually not just dropping the down through the gears, but it's actually blipping the engine as it does it. And suddenly everything gets an awful lot more responsive. So I'll give it some throttle now. It's properly off. And you can't start it for very long in this car because you hit the speed limit extremely quickly. But let's let it change up. And now if I brake, you'll hear it go down through the gears. Properly fast. And I don't know if the microphone will pick it up, but there's a little burble on the overrun as well, so it's that sort of crackling and popping noise. I don't know if you can hear that. It is a completely pointless boy racer mode. And the funny thing is that when I test drove the car and I tried it with that, I thought, that's brilliant, I've got to have this is just fantastic. And since I've had the car, I've used it to show people, isn't this great? And then when I'm driving it the rest of the time, I just put it in comfort, because honestly, that suits the car better. But this is a fun feature. If you're in the right mood, then yeah, it's pretty cool. So now it's changed down again, and everything's got that little bit edgier. It's basically it's rolled its sleeves up and it said, okay, come on then, let's go for it. And this is a fun feature. If you're in the right mood, then yeah, it's pretty cool. saved on the screen here, the curve mode, what that does is it actually banks the car slightly into the corner. So as we go around this right hand bend, it'll actually tilt it very slightly like a motorcycle into the corner, just to make it a little bit more comfortable. There it goes. Very much doubt you can see it because it's very slight, but nonetheless that's what it does. And then we push this dynamic select again, and we're back into comfort mode. Now everything's quietened down, the steering's got lighter, the engine revs have dropped lower, and everything is serene. But it's very interesting the way that it can completely change the dynamics of the car. And in fact, because it's got kickdown and so on, if you need the power suddenly, it's still there. It's just not doing that high revving, exhaust popping, heavier steering, sports car business. It's back into comfort mode. Anyway, having given you that little demonstration, I think the next thing to do is drop the roof and we'll have a run back home with the roof down, because that ultimately is what this car is all about. Okay, so I've pulled over to drop the roof. Now, you can operate this roof up to 25 miles an hour, but you have to be stationary before you activate it. So, little flap here, pull that lever, and we can, if we want to now, drive away, and it will drop as we go, up to 25 miles an hour. And it's pretty fast actually, so there we go, done. So it's really not so much of an inconvenience at all. And we're in full convertible mode, and this is what I love. I absolutely adore convertibles. I've had convertibles now for the last 17 years. I haven't really been without one any longer than I've needed to be. So I've had, my first one was a Audi A4, I've had Mazda MX-5s, and then I got into Mercedes. My first SLK was the silver one, then the black one, which I had for 8 years, and now this one. And this is what makes it all worthwhile. A beautiful day, sun's out, and you're just cruising along, the top down. It's just nothing like it. It's brilliant. I love it. So how do I sum this car up? Well, I think in essence it's very similar to the SLK. It does what that car did, which is to be a proper, refined, hardtop coupe. But when you want it to be, it's a full-on convertible. And there aren't very many cars that can pull off that trick. The difference with the SL is it's the SLK wound up to 11. Everything is better. It's faster, more comfortable, quieter, more refined, better equipped. And I think to sum up, what I would say is the SLK is like business class. It's everything that you could need. It's brilliant. This, however, this is like first class. This is everything you could possibly want.